Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial, another week of painting, colourful painting. This week I'm going to paint a lovely soft kind of a sunsetty landscape. Very simple techniques, but I think very effective and very eye-catching. So it's going to be a kind of a nice yellowy sort of a sunset on a lake with a few reflections and two little ducks, I think they're ducks, kind of swimming along the water, creating little ripples. So something like that. Patrons wanted it painted. So I'm going to paint that for my patrons, and I'm going to paint another one then for my Patreon page in the next few days for patrons. The lovely sunset with the dock coming out, the kind of walkway coming out onto the lake. So another lovely one for you, my friends, as well. So without further ado, let's crack on, have some painting with this nice warm colours, lots of yellows, and let's try and keep it simple but very effective. Okay, let's try it. Let's just keep it nice and simple. Don't go anywhere, let's have some fun. Okay, this is my canvas. It's 16 by 12. I primed it just once, and gave it a rub of sandpaper. Okay, so it's nice and smooth. Here is my palette. Now I want to put the reference photo on the screen. Isn't that beautiful? Very atmospheric, lots of distance, lots of mist, but lovely colours. So I'll tell you what colours I have today. Titanium white, Naples yellow, cadmium yellow pale, alizarin crimson, cadmium red, lamp black, burnt sienna, burnt umber, and phaylo blue. They are my colours, and let me just have my white close by because I'm going to need a lot of that. Okay, so that's it. Let's crack on. I have some turpentine here with a little linseed oil in it, and that's about the size of it really, my friends. Let's paint. That's the most important part, the painting. I'm going to go nice and high with the horizon line in this, okay? In fact, you know what I might do? I was thinking about putting masking tape across, but I don't think I need it because it's going to be nice and misty. I want to make it misty, so you can hardly see the horizon line. The only reason you can see the line on the horizon is really from the reflections, okay? So maybe just put a suggestion of where it may be, just very lightly, just as a reference, just very loosely, okay? We'll paint over most of this. Let's paint. I'm going to get a brush, a medium stubby brush. Well, it's a large stubby brush actually. And I have these on my Etsy channel, Etsy page, if you're interested in getting your hands on some of these. They're fantastic, nice little short brushes, and they're very soft. Okay, now what brings my attention to this painting, what catches my eye, is very simple, okay? It's the complementary colours. So that blue up in this corner, that really catches it for me. That really is setting the painting off for me. That little blue against the yellows and oranges, okay? That really catches it, catches my attention. So that's why I love this painting, this scene. Let's start. I'm going to start with a very warm blue up here in this corner, okay? I'll just dampen my brush ever so slightly. Let me just soften my brush now a little bit because it's a little bit firm. And just soften it, give it a rub on some timber or something, a rough surface. That just loosens up the bristles a little. It's probably still a little bit hard, but look, we'll get through it. Now, I'll dampen my brush. I'm going to take some white and cobalt blue, okay? Sorry, I said just earlier, I said this was phthalo blue. It's actually cobalt blue, okay? Phthalo blue is too rich for this kind of a scene. So a little cobalt blue, and it's very forgiving. It's a lovely bright blue sky kind of a blue. Then I'm going to warm it with a little, let's say, a little crimson, okay? Let's just warm it. It's not a bright blue, it's more of a cool mauve. That's what I'm kind of trying to get, okay? Because I don't want it clashing with the yellows. So a nice warm mauve. Plenty of crimson in this, don't be shy about the crimson, okay? Now let me just take a look. That's nice, I like that. So I'm going to just put that colour in first, then I might add a little bit more blue into it as it comes over to the left, okay? Now it's only a little bit, it's only a little bit of this showing through. Let's add a little bit more cobalt blue. Beautiful blue, beautiful warm blue, that cobalt. Really, really is. And it's not very overpowering either, so you can really get away with mixing plenty. And let me just soften that just in, okay, just like that. Okay, done. That's that done. Let's leave it. Okay, I'll give my brush a quick clean out here now. Just get rid of that blue out of my brush. I don't know, should I switch brushes actually? Go to something a little different, something a little softer. Look, okay, I have a number 7 soft synthetic kind of a brush. All right, it's a cross between a bristle and synthetic fiber, so it's a very soft, kind of a bristly brush, very, very soft. And I don't use bristle brushes most of the time, but this is more like a synthetic kind of a brush. I'm going to start putting nice pinks in, okay, just before the blue mixes towards the yellow. I'm going to put some nice warm kind of colours in just around here and there. So I'm looking forward to this now. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to take some Naples yellow, and let's get plenty of this now, don't be shy. Plenty of Naples yellow, little thinners, a little white, and it's a very, very bright, almost like a peachy kind of a colour, isn't it? Let's take a hint of crimson. So now we end up with a very warm kind of a peachy sort of a colour, salmon peachy kind of a colour. Let me just check that now. I'm going to make more. In fact, all I'm going to do, I can see a colour on that reference photograph now, and I think I need it. It is magenta. I'm going to take a hint of magenta just down here, because I can see lovely hints of pink. I could use crimson, but crimson might make it a little bit too warm. So I'm thinking a touch of magenta would actually be the perfect colour for this. See, a tiny touch. So magenta with Naples yellow, okay? Ah, there we go. That's better. So I'm just going to put this in now. So because I'm using pink into the blue, it's not going to go green when I start putting on yellows, you see. So a little bit of pink first goes a long way, and it prevents any muddiness on the canvas. Little bit of Naples yellow, a little bit of white. So we have a lovely, soft, kind of opaque, creamy colour. Okay. Let's just pop that in there. This is going to be a lot of fun. Now I want to take my time with this scene. It's a fairly simple scene. You could kind of just put on lots of paint, but I want to make this a really nice tutorial. And I want to take my time. So sit back, folks, relax, get yourselves a nice cup of tea or coffee, and enjoy the show. Let's come down here. Let's start making it slightly more on the pink side as it comes down. Already the colours are kind of bouncing off each other, aren't they? The blue and the pinks. Okay, I'm going to start taking some white into that, and I'm going to just start kind of softening a little bit of the white up here and there into the blue, you see? I'm being very kind of spontaneous with it, you see that? Because I'm going to be softening this with the blender brush anyway. So you don't have to be too particular with all of this. There's just a lot of kind of clouds bouncing around up there in the warm colour. You see, I'm kind of picking up some of the warm colour and dragging it across into the blue as well. Very loosely, you see? Just leave it dance around. Dance around up in the sky. And then I'm going to take a blender brush, a very, very soft makeup brush, okay? And I'm just going to soften some of those into that sky. That just takes all those brush strokes out and makes it lovely and soft and misty. Just there, okay? There, we already have a beautiful kind of colour going on up there. So I'm going to start coming across now, and I'm going to start making it very bright. So a little more thinners, some white, plenty of Naples yellow, and a little crimson. I'm going to try crimson this time. So this very bright kind of a pastel sort of a colour, you see? It's lovely, bright and chalky. It's not a very translucent colour, so it covers the canvas very well. Anything with Naples yellow and white will cover the canvas very well, okay? If I was using cadmium yellow, it would be very sort of translucent and it would not cover the canvas particularly well. So a Naples yellow, plenty of it, will really cover your canvas. So let's pop that in there. And I do have very little thinners in this. I only have the tiniest amount because I want plenty of paint on the canvas. Okay, I don't want to go crazy with the linseed oil and the thinners today. I want to just build up nice thick layers. So it's coming across, so you can see it goes from a yellow kind of to a pink, doesn't it? Now I want to start warming down here. There's a lot of pink over here. I can see lots and lots of pink. So I'm going to start taking Naples yellow and magenta. And I may take a hint of crimson as well, actually, just to really make it a nice pink. Look at that, that's nice. So let's just pop that pink in here just for a moment, and I will cool it down a bit, okay? But there's some lovely kind of pinks over on this side over here, and we've lovely, there's almost like an orange going through it as well, isn't there, every here and there. So first of all, let me take some of the magenta and then a hint of cobalt blue, okay? Beautiful purple, isn't it? Then I'm going to take a hint of crimson. And what I'm going to do then, so you can see I have a very kind of a soft pink here, yes, a plummy pink. I'm going to take a hint of burnt umber. And that burnt umber is just going to, look at that, lovely. Just give some real deep colours in that sky. I'll bring it over just a little bit more. It goes up like that, doesn't it? Really, really lovely colours in this. Let's pop a little bit up there. It's just a very misty, foggy kind of a morning, and there's lots of these colours going through. I'm going to pop a little touch of it over here as well, just to balance out the painting. So rather than having completely different colours, I want to make the composition work, so I'm just going to pop some of that colour over here as well, just here and there, okay? Just a little touch of it. You probably don't even see this on camera now, but there's only a little touch of it there. That's all. A little bit kind of flicking along here and there. And we'll soften it then, you see, later with the soft brush again. Okay, let me dip that into my turpentine, give it a good wipe on some tissue. And I'm going to start really warming the colours now as they come across. I'm going to start taking Naples yellow, which I need more of. And this is when the fun starts. So anybody can try this. It's just a matter of being very careful with your mixes. Don't go lashing loads of paint on your canvas. Just little parts at a time. Do you know what I mean? And then you can soften it all together with your blender brush later. I find that's the trick. Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, a touch, and a hint of cadmium red. Yeah, cadmium red. Let's pop this nice warm colour in here. Now I'm going to kind of go up slightly on the sides with this, okay? But I also want to allow this to sort of fizzle over into some of the pink as well. You see, I'm just simply dragging the paint across. It's not a huge amount of paint, it's not very, very, very thick. It's just a kind of a dry brush, and I'm dragging the paint across the canvas, okay? That's the kind of idea that I have. I don't want to put on loads of paint and completely overpower the painting with lots of paint, because it gets very messy, it really does. And just to kind of suggest some clouds up there sort of moving around, let's just pop a couple in here and there, look. Maybe one or two up there. So I'm going to put some nice rich purple in down at the bottom here, but it's a purple with a hint of a brown. So let's take some crimson, little magenta, because that just cools it down slightly, a hint of cobalt blue, so it's more pinky like a plum, then a hint of brown, okay? So it's a browny kind of a pink is what I'm after. I'm going to pop some of that in just along the bottom here, and it's softening upwards, you see. When I create this sort of, the way it goes up like this and the sun is in the middle, that's what I want to try and get. Now I want to put some nice rich orange into this because I can see lovely rich orange just around here. So I'm cleaning the brush very quickly. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, some cadmium red, and I'm going to go more on the red side with this, okay? Just to avoid any colours clashing with the yellow. So let's have a look now. Let's just see what we can do with this. That's a nice colour now, isn't it? Let's soften that upwards and out, okay? Soften it across and then soften it down. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's a simple scene. It looks complicated with all the colours, but what I do is I look at the scene and I pick out different areas, different colours, just mix them as best I can. That's kind of what I do normally, okay? Just mix them as best you can. And just paint it on where you see it. So brown, a little bit of burnt umber with the red, a little magenta, then a hint of Naples yellow to soften that. Soften that right out. If you use white, white makes it very cold, whereas the Naples yellow has a hint of yellow in it anyway, so it'll keep it warm still. And you can get away with using lots of Naples yellow. It's a very forgiving colour. Put that in under there. And I'm going to kind of suggest almost mountains in the distance with this. Very soft mountains, way, way off that you can't hardly even see. But it'll give you an idea that there's something there. Do you understand what I mean? Just like that. Now I'm going to pop some of that colour in just over here as well, just to, again, bring the colour across the canvas to help the composition, you see. And I may even pop a little touch of it up here, perhaps even creating some shadow on some of these clouds as well. Alright, just a little. And then these will soften together nicely with the soft brush in a moment. And perhaps one or two just at the back of this cloud up here. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. If you're not confident enough to try this, you don't have to. Okay, it's just something I think would be nice. Now I'm going to get my soft brush and I'm going to just kind of soften all these together. Lovely and soft. And what I really like about this is, see the way we've left some of the brush strokes here, some of the outlines of some of the clouds. That's really nice. I like that. Let's soften this and soften over here. So you can see I didn't over soften the sky. I still left a little hint of a brush stroke just here and there, just to sort of catch your eye. Do you know what I mean? Draw in the eye. Okay, now let's crack on. Let's get this lovely rich sun in here. Lovely and rich. No, do you know what I'm going to do actually first? My apologies. What I'm going to do first is take a small brush, a small soft flat brush, pop in some very bright colour up here. Okay, I'm going to dampen it, dry it. Oh, this is dirty. There's some paint already in this. That's no good. I need a brush that's kind of slightly worn. There, this is a nice little soft brush I have here. Just make sure that your brush is clean. That's what I would say. I'm going to take a hint of cadmium yellow, hint of Naples yellow, and lots of white, okay? It's probably even just Naples yellow, but I think the hint of cadmium yellow will just really make this sparkle and jump right out. There, look at that. Maybe even more white. A little bit more white, maybe some more Naples yellow. I'll pop that in just to brighten up some parts of the sky up there, okay? And there's no particular technique for this. It's just a case of letting the brush dance around. You see? Creating the suggestion of some very bright clouds up there. Now I need some clean yellow or clean white on my palette there, because you can see I have some blue going through the white. That's not good. Clean white, the most important part. Nice and clean. Let's try Naples yellow with white, okay? Pop that up there. A nice bright colour. We're picking out some of the clouds up there, and even some here as well. Look, just catching one or two of those, adding a little bit of light to some of them here and there. Now, give the brush a wipe. Just make sure your brush is nice and clean. Give it a little wipe from time to time. And there we go. I think we don't need to do any more than that. Let's soften this very slightly together. Look, just taking out some of the brush strokes, because I want it nice and soft and misty when it's finished. Just rubbing the brush around on some of these. Okay, let's sit back and take a look at this. Yeah, I'm happy enough with that. I think as an artist, when you're painting something like this, you'll never be completely happy with something, won't you? Never. That's what I find. I'm never 100% happy, but I'm, happy enough that I want to move forward, and I'm happy enough that it's finished. Do you know what I mean? That for me is the key. I think finding just that little sweet spot where you think, yes, it's just enough. Let's crack on and do our sun. We have a lovely rich sun in the middle, don't we? Let's start with some of this whitey yellow first, and let's pick a point. Let's go here. Now I'm going to flick it outwards like this. Look, because I want to create the impression of the rays of the sun going out into the sky. Alright, now I'm slowly going to start adding more and more yellow to this. I go with this first. I don't want to go too luminous, so that might be even too much. Let's take some white. Pop some of that in there, like that. Already we can start to see that lovely bright area come to life, can't we? A little bit of white just in the middle. I'm being careful with this. Just with the corner of the brush, let's just flick it outwards. And look at that. Isn't that just lovely? I'm happy with that. I'm happy enough with that now. Very happy. Simple but effective. Let's move on. We have a little row of trees over here, don't we? Let's get those in. I'm going to use this reddy colour I have here, but I'm going to add a hint of burnt umber to the mix, and maybe a hint of cobalt blue. Just a hint. It's a very soft kind of a brown colour. I think that will do. I'm just going to use my flat brush up on edge and pull it down like that, okay? And it's going to naturally soften into that sky, here and there. Now we don't have to go crazy with this. See, just like that. Very gently soften it into the sky. You see, so we already have a nice impression, don't we? I'll take a little hint of cadmium red and just put a hint of red on this side of those, just here and there. Soften it across. Then I'm going to go slightly darker. I'm going to take a hint of black. Now be very careful with the black because it's a very dark colour. Into the mix, just a little bit of black. And I'm going to pop just to darken it ever so slightly on this side. You can see that little bit of shadow creeping into it just from one side, can't you? Little bit of shadow here and there. Okay, I'm now going to soften that with my soft brush. I want to create a nice soft misty feel with all of this, okay? Cross it at angles, just soften it all in to that background, very gently. And we have a lovely soft misty row of trees off in the distance. Isn't that nice? That's very nice. I'm happy enough with that. Right, I'm turning my tissue because it's getting very dirty, okay? Just turn the tissue over. And we have trees on this side. These ones are different now, okay? I'm going to just do filling in maybe first with this brush. I'm going to take some burnt umber and a little burnt sienna. And let me actually take a hint of cadmium red as well. So I'm going to try a slightly warmer colour for this. First, let's take some more sienna and some more cadmium red. The sun is really hitting these, so I want these nice and warm, okay? And just take your time, just do little bits at a time. Don't try to get everything done with just one brush stroke. I find that with a lot of artists actually, especially beginners, they try to get everything done with just the one brush stroke, with those big kind of Bob Ross brushes. Now it's fine, but it makes everything look exactly the same. That's just what I find. Big brushes are fine, but just be careful. Try not to use big brushes all the time, too much, because you know you struggle to find how to paint little things like this. Because if you're using big brushes all the time, you're losing the way of painting little details. Even with a slightly bigger brush like this, you can paint a lot of this with a bigger brush as well. I just find the big 1-inch brushes, they just overpower the painting, really. Now I'm going to take a very small pointy brush for this. Need to find a really small pointy brush. And I'm not very good at pointy brushes lately. I need to buy some more. I have a new one here. Let's try this. A very small pointy brush. Let's get some of that colour. Little sienna in there. So it's like a dark sienna I'm using. Okay, bit of thinners. Let's just pop the impression of a few tree trunks in here and there, okay? And I'm simply really dragging the paint upwards. You see, just very lightly. You don't have to go mad with all of this. It's just a suggestion, that's all. Now that leaves us with the next question. How to create this little touch of foliage up here. You could try a fan brush, perhaps. Let's try the fan brush and see how that works. Or a very flat brush would work for this as well. I don't have any very flat brushes here at the moment. Perhaps this one. Let's try a flat brush like this just for now. If this doesn't work, we can go to the fan brush, yes? So, let's just create the impression of some of those little trees with some little bits of foliage on them. Now if you're more comfortable with your fan brush, then just use your fan brush, okay? Honestly. I just like to try, I like to stay away from fan brushes as much as I can. They're great for certain things, but for other things then, it just makes everything look exactly the same on your painting. And I try to get into the habit of using different brushes as I'm going along, okay? I just think it gives it a more natural feel. I'm kind of going down at an angle. Like so. And I know I'm only using a little touch of paint on the tip of my brush, that's all. But I think it works. I think it does work, okay? It does make a difference. There, how's that? Nice little suggestion of some little trees off in the distance. So I'm going to add a little hint of darkness to some of these. I'll take the same mix again, burnt sienna with cadmium red, but a little burnt umber, okay? Nice rich dark brown. And I'm just going to add a little hint of some shadow to some of these. Just up on one side. And I think that will help sort of bring it to life a little bit. Maybe darken some of the bushes a little bit as well. And I'm going to go even darker with some of those bushes. Some black and cadmium red. Just let the brush dance around, look. So we have a nice little touch of land over there. There we go. And that's absolutely fine. Okay? Now, if you want to create a little bit of a misty feel on that, you could, if you want, take your soft brush and just kind of soften very gently some of that into your sky. I'm hardly touching the canvas now, okay, but I'm doing it very carefully not to drag the paint too far into my sky. Just at the end, just to soften it out slightly. Okay, water. So we're going along nicely now, aren't we? I'm moving back to my bigger brush, and to try and create this misty feel, all I'm going to do is copy all those colours down here, okay? Very simple. I think I'll start with this bright yellow. There's kind of a pinky just above the yellow, isn't there? Let's start with that. Let's get some white. We have Naples yellow. And we have some crimson. Now bear in mind, when you're painting a reflection, it's generally darker than what you're reflecting it off. So if I'm painting a sky, the reflection is going to be slightly darker in colour. That's the general kind of rule I find works in painting. Let me take a look at this now. Let's just get the basic colour first, and then we can add to it as we go, okay? Magenta, burnt umber, a little crimson. So it's a very kind of a subdued sort of a pink. Now I might add a hint of cadmium red to it, I think, just to warm it slightly. It's probably a little bit cool for me. Maybe even some Naples yellow. So I'm going to cut across in front of these like this, okay? Right up. Clean the brush just from that little touch of brown, okay? Let's go with a little more crimson. It's more pinky over here, isn't it? Also, I can't tell now if this horizon line is very straight because I'm kind of slightly off to one side of the canvas. So let me see if I can kind of straighten it as best I can. Now, I'll come down here with this. As this comes down, it's going to start cooling slightly. So I'm taking a little cobalt blue with crimson. And that's not a bad colour. I'll go with that. I'll thin it ever so slightly. Pop a little of that nice mauve in, here and there. You can see the pink on the brush is still kind of mixing in. It's lovely, creating these lovely little soft colours. Soft tones, that's what I'm after. Now I won't go any further. As it comes across, it's going to start getting very, very yellow, isn't it? So let's start with a fresh brush again. Naples yellow, a little cadmium yellow, and a little crimson. So it starts going into this lovely orange right there, doesn't it? And I'm just calling this now the filling in stage. Okay, I'm filling in. I can start adding ripples and all that kind of thing later. But my priority right now is just getting the canvas covered. Okay, bring it back here. I'm going to need to mix a decent amount of this, I think, because it's not going far. Let's take some of that and a little of that. Come across here, pop that in. Bring some of that colour across into this area as well, okay? Let's just allow it to cut across. And you don't have to copy the reference photograph exactly. You can just go at your own pace, make this your own, add little touches of other colours if you like. Absolutely. It's entirely up to yourself, okay? I'm really excited about the ripples down here. That's a really eye-catching part of this photograph, isn't it? Those ripples. I really want to make those really nice. I'm going to start darkening this now even further, okay? To get a nice rich orangey kind of a pinky colour. Take a little Naples yellow in that as well. Again, a touch of thinners. Thinners does help. Now, I don't know if you can see or not on the photograph, there's a very reflection of this kind of burnt orange colour. There's a little bit of that going on as well. I'm going to pop some of that in. Some sienna with some cadmium yellow and a little hint of crimson. Very, very rich orangey, burnt kind of an orangey colour. This may be a little strong. Let me take some Naples yellow into this. And let's just try this and see how it looks. Okay, and simply pop some of that in left and right. Left and right, left and right. Right up there. And go across. So now I'm thinking about starting to create some of the reflections as I'm going with this. Okay. I'm going to clean the brush. I have that lovely orange in there. And I'm going to come down to this side here and start putting in, maybe let's do the reflections here actually. Let's do these reflections. It's a little hint of burnt umber, some crimson, a hint of cobalt blue. So it's like this mauvey kind of, maybe a hint of magenta, mauvey kind of a brown colour. But it's a bit of a cool colour, isn't it? So plenty of cobalt in this. And I'm going to simply pull them down like that, okay? There we go. Nice and simple. And don't worry if you don't get these absolutely perfect, okay? Because we can soften all of this together with our soft brush as well. So don't worry too much. I'm going to come down and add a little touch of that colour down here, because there's some of those colours reflecting in the sky. Lovely soft sort of colours. Let's cut across some of that. Okay, so moving on to some nice mauves and blues down at the bottom. We still have a lot to do, folks, a lot to do. So don't get ahead of yourselves. Take your time. Cobalt blue with some white, little magenta, perhaps a little touch of crimson. Again, I think I'll start with this sort of cool mauvey colour, and then I can start darkening it as I go, because this will soften into the yellows much more if it's on the warm side. Just pop some of that across there. There's a little bit over here as well. Might as well just pop a little bit of it in, just to get the base colour in for my reflections. And take a little touch of pink, little touch of white, and pop a little touch of that in as well. I'm just being very careful with this yellow. I don't want any muckiness on this, so I need to be very careful with this, okay? All right, pop a little bit up there. Now I want to cool some of the blue over here. Take some cobalt blue with a hint of crimson. Just to make it a little more blue. Okay, let's go even darker. Let's get some nice dark paint on. Leave it soften upwards. I'm going to pop a little bit touch of that just here and there in this section, creating little ripples, maybe one or two here. If you're not confident with something like this now, you can just keep it simple, but I'm sure you will be able to create a wonderful landscape out of this, okay? I'm sure you will. I have every faith. Take some crimson and some magenta. You can see I'm mixing everything with the same brush as I go. I like just using the same brush because you kind of pick up certain colours off of the brush to create other complementary colours. Okay? That's kind of generally what happens. A little bit of that up there. Soften out some of the yellow. Okay. Now, I know you think this bright orange in the middle is probably a bit overwhelming, and it probably is, but don't worry, we can fix it. We'll fix it right now. Let's take some thinners. Naples yellow, little white, and perhaps a touch of crimson. Let's tone down some of this orangey kind of sienna colour that we have in here. Let's just tone it down. See? That easy. It really is that easy. So, I want to suggest some of the clouds, those little touches of clouds. I want to suggest some of those. I'm going to take some white and I'll take a touch of Naples yellow, and maybe a touch of the crimson. It's a very, very pale pink, warm kind of a pinky colour. I'm simply going to just pull some of them down like this, you see? Down over everything. This is really just an impression. It's just a sort of a suggestion, rather, okay? But when I soften all of this in, you'll see then it'll kind of make more sense as I soften it in with the soft brush. A bit of Naples yellow, because just to kind of translate that movement from the sky down into the water. Just a little. And I won't overdo it. It's just a little hint of a suggestion. Let's now take our soft blender brush. First I'm going to pull them down. As you can see, I'm kind of building up layers very slowly. That's the idea. And then I'm going to soften them across. And I'm really going to soften them in very well. Okay, let me sit back and take a look at this. I think now is the time to start concentrating on proper reflections, that kind of thing. Okay, I think next I'll just pull down some dark colour for these. I'm going to take some of that dark colour that we had, some burnt umber, a little sienna. I think I'll just pull some of that down first. Very simple. I'll just pull like this, okay? A little touch more sienna, perhaps, to keep it warm. And you can see I'm kind of making the lines of the trees a little more prominent compared to everything else. Then go nice and dark just up at the top there, okay? Now, let's go into some burnt umber. Pull some burnt umber through some of these. Then what I'm going to do is pull these down with my soft brush. Then I'm going to pull across very gently. Now what I'm also going to do to get some mist up into that, I hope you can see all of this okay on camera. I am going to take some light colour, perhaps a little Naples yellow, and a hint of cadmium red perhaps. Okay, a tiny amount. I'm going to go up here and create a little mist across where the two of those meet. I'm going to create a little mist. Okay, clean your brush every few seconds. Soften it outwards and come down into the reflection as well. So now we have a lovely mist going on up there, don't we? Just a touch. And again we'll soften it with a soft brush. Pull it down a little, across a little, and so on and so forth, until you think you're happy enough with that. Nice little mist, isn't that lovely? Okay, it's time to really go to town with these reflections and start putting in some really nice swoops with the brush and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to get a nice flat brush. The one I used earlier, my medium flat brush, give it a good clean. I need to get more thinners, nice clean thinners. So now this is basically the underpainting done of the water. I'm now going to start putting in some proper colour. Let's get some crimson. I'll start with along the top here, okay? I'm going to deepen that slightly. Crimson, lots of Naples yellow. It's a lovely warm pink, maybe a hint of sienna. So that's a nice warm colour. Pop that in. I might go a little bit darker. Some burnt umber perhaps. Some crimson. It's a bit better, isn't it? Now I'm going to start pulling some reflections, not reflections, ripples across down here, okay? The suggestion of tiny little ripples way off in the distance, you see? I'm just pulling them across from right to left or left to right, whatever you prefer. Go over into that tree line even. Now I want to soften the horizon line a little bit more where they meet. So I'm just going to sort of soften the two colours together very gently. Then I'll cut across just a little here and there. The next thing I want to get in is perhaps the sun. That very bright sun. Should we try it? I think we should try it. Let's go. Let's get some of this lovely rich cadmium yellow. Take a little hint of cadmium red. And maybe a hint of Naples yellow. So I have a lovely soft kind of an orange colour on my brush. And I'm going to just pull it in between some of those. And I'm going to soften that colour outwards, because there is a lot of that colour there even though you can't see it very much. And I'm pulling it over into these trees, you see those? Creating nice little ripples. Nice and gentle, nice and soft. Okay, then some white with some Naples yellow. I'm going to go right under the sun and I'm going to simply pull it down, okay, outwards. Very similar fashion to what we did on the sky. What I'm going to do then at this stage is just soften it. Again, left to right. So I keep adding new layers and then softening them together. That's what I'm doing. I'm thinking a bit more yellow, perhaps just in the middle, yellowy white. Isn't this coming on nicely now? Nice little reflections coming down. Okay, let me sit back, take a look. It's okay. Now I still might not be gone on that colour just there. If you feel something is too rich, lighten it slightly with something else. Just to take the edge off of it, you know what I mean? Pick up some pink even, look, and run some pink through it. There we go. That takes away some of the richness. Let's get some cadmium yellow and a little white. So I'm going slightly brighter each time. Then I might just take a little touch of white and right in the middle pop a little dab of just white, okay? Now, it's slightly to one side, isn't it? See, it's only when you step back and you look at something you think, yeah, it needs to be more over this way, doesn't it? Okay, better? Yeah, not bad. So I'll get rid of some of this one here. You see how we can fix things? Very, very easily done. Now the next thing I want to do is get some of the nice warm colour and cut just in front of this, okay, just like that, to create a nice little barrier. And you see I'm just kind of cutting in front of it, just here and there. To break it up a little, okay? Just a little. We're moving on downwards, we're doing very well, I must say. I'm going to start with this brush now, putting in some of the warmer bluey colours as well. Let's mix up a nice mauve, cobalt blue. It's a lot of fun watching something like this, isn't it? Seeing it all kind of come together. It's a lot of fun, I must say. For you, I hope it is. I hope you're enjoying it. Please let me know. Let's get some of this nice blue. And I'm going to start over here. So with the blue, I need a bit of cooler colour, I think. I'm thinking maybe the tiniest hint of black. Tiny, tiny, tiny hint. Just to dull it down a little. So I'm going to kind of, with swooping effects, look, just leave it swoop out. So we're creating little ripples. You see that? And the trick to this, not being green going through the yellow, is to create single brush strokes and not mixing them too much. So it's basically a case of being right the first time, getting it right. That's what I would say. So I'm trying to create this kind of ripply effect going out. So I'm going around in a kind of a very small semicircle. And everything has to go in the same direction, okay? A little bit up here. And as it goes out, it's kind of disappearing. I'm barely touching the canvas now with this, but you can still sort of make out the brush strokes, can't you? So that's that much done. I'm going to do the same with more of a warmer colour. I'm going to get more of a pinker colour with a little hint of Naples yellow. I'm going to do the same as it gets warmer over here. See, I'm just dragging them like that very lightly across the canvas. So now we're picking up some of those colours from the clouds. I'm using very little paint, by the way, very, very little. A tiny, tiny amount of paint on the tip of my brush. I'm pushing the paint right out onto the thin edge of my brush. Right, I'm going to start going now for some darker colours. I still have the lights to do, I still have the bright colours to do yet, so don't worry. I need to go to a sort of a dark plummy colour this time. So cobalt blue, crimson, lots of crimson and a little hint of burnt umber. And that will give us a nice rich kind of a plum colour. Let's start on this side. So I'm going to just leave that one fizzle out like that. Touch more blue, I would say. So I'm just creating the effect of some of the ripples kind of going around like this, okay? Slightly cooler colour as it comes out. We'll have one or two small ones as well. Okay, so I'm going to take my soft brush and I'm going to start softening some of those outwards, especially where they go out to the very end, you see? I'm really soften them out. The next thing I'm going to do is go for some bright colours, and this is where the ripples now start to come to life. So if I take some Naples yellow and a hint of crimson, so if I take that very bright colour and I go in on top of some of these, you see the way that brightness just sort of brings the ripple to life, doesn't it? Let's try it down here. So a nice bright colour right on top of the ripple, and it's kind of softening, naturally softening outwards. Okay? It's really fun, you should try this. Let's go again. And do keep your brush nice and clean when doing this. Okay, nice little ripples. I'll go to my smaller brush and I'll mix a kind of a light pink. Okay, nice bright pinky colour, and I go over here by the blues and pop some nice bright pinks. So now you can see those lights against the darks. They really kind of help to bring it to life, don't they? And we can even add some of those brighter colours further up. Just one or two. The next thing I want to do is create, just where those two ducks are swimming, there's a lovely rippled effect just behind them. I want to get the impression of that, so I'm just going to kind of pop some little suggestions of tiny ripples fizzling outwards, okay? And they're really just tiny dabs with the brush, that's all they are. Little Naples yellow. And they seem to be coming from a point, don't they? Around here. I hope you can see this. I don't know if I should zoom in or not, because if I zoom in you won't be able to see the colour mixing. So it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one to know what to do, isn't it? Okay. Let me stop at that. I'm going to put in the darks behind the ducks. Okay. Maybe I should paint the ducks first, I'm not sure. I want to put in some lights as well up here by that sunny area. I'm going to pop a few lights in there, maybe a hint of Naples yellow, cadmium yellow and white, and just pop a couple of small ripples just around that area, just to brighten it, give it a little bit of a spark or sparkle. as they say. I'll bring a few maybe across some of the trees as well. I'll transfer a few down here as well. Okay. It's a slow process, but we will get there. You know what I mean? I'll take a little white and just a tiny bit of white. I'm just going to pop a little suggestion of white just in there, okay? Just to really show off that spot where the sun is. That's nice, I like that. Let's do the ducks. I'm going to start with some burnt umber first. I'm going to put them in with this kind of a colour first, okay? Pinky brown, some magenta and burnt umber. And I'm going to then put in the lighter colours, okay? Or the darker colours, my apologies. So let's go nice and big now with these, maybe even bigger than what they are on the photograph. I'll put one there. And I'll take a slightly darker colour for the next one. We'll go back here for this one. Then I'll go into black with burnt umber for the heads. Maybe even go a bit bigger, I think. And it's really, at the end of the day, it's just a suggestion anyway. So you don't have to be too fussy with all of this. A little flick out for the beak. And just add a little bit of detail, just for interest really, more so than anything else. Okay. Let's try the same with the other one. Might make the other one a bit bigger as well, actually. A little black for the head. I'll try and get them as nice as possible anyway. Okay. Then, just with a bit of black, I'm going to suggest a reflection. So, just a little touch of a reflection. It's very kind of hit and miss, the reflection, because of the ripples. Okay. And the other one. This is more broken up, but we'll endeavour to make it look somewhat nice. Then on the top of those, I'm going to pop a very bright colour, maybe Naples yellow, okay, just to show off the outline of them, okay, and then even a hint of white in some places. It's just really just to add a bit of detail, that's all. nothing else. Okay, that's fine. I'm then going to take some Naples yellow with a little white and put some ripples in around some of these. Now we have these little ripples through, don't we? Let's crack on and do those. Time is pressing on, my friends. It sure is pressing on. I'm going to go with some burnt umber, crimson, go for a warm browny kind of a pink, okay? Another, again, a mauvey kind of a colour. Let's just go and pop some ripples, are simply just little dabs with the brush, little squiggly lines here and there. I'm going to go out at a slight angle with some of these. Let's come over here and view through that. Okay, you sit back a moment. It's all right. I'll add a bit more blue to the mix. So we've more of a purple colour coming into play. As it comes across, it gets much more purple. All right. Don't be shy, just add plenty of marks with your brush. I'll bring it up slightly higher on this side. Then I'm going to take a little hint of black, pop a little hint of black in here and there to some of those, just to darken it slightly. Okay, like that. Then I'm going to get some lighter colour. Now I want to darken some of these as well. I'm not particularly happy with some of those. I want to darken them slightly. So I'm going to go in here and just with my brush, allow the brush to catch some of those here and there, okay? I think just darkening them that little bit makes a big difference. And the same over here, you see? I think that really helps. One last thing I need to do is, now I'm actually going to darken these ducks a little bit more, okay? Just so it's more of a silhouette against the sun. I'm going to then take some of this Naples yellowy kind of colour, just pop a little hint of that in between some of those, just to suggest these ripples catching the light, okay? Just a little. I don't want to go crazy now with all of this. I'm then going to soften some of these ones up here, back in, and I might soften some of these very gently. Then I'm going to take some light colour lastly Just going to get some nice light colour, and I want to just put in a few nice ripples of that nice bright colour. It's just Naples yellow. You want plenty of thinners in this just to make it nice and flowy, just to allow it to flow nicely. Okay, how about that? Okay, I'm just looking now, constantly looking, thinking where can I adjust this. I might soften some of this together, I think. I'm just going to put some of it together because I think they're a little bit too prominent. They need to be slightly softer. So I'll just pull them like that. Just allow the brush to soften them together very gently. And perhaps the same on these. Then I'll pop some, perhaps just some light pink here and there on some of these ones, just to brighten them slightly. They're maybe a little bit on the dull side. Okay. And my friends, I think I will call this finished. I am quite happy with this. I need to do one more thing. Now, I'm still not happy with the ducks. I'm still not happy. I'm going to darken them right down and soften them together. I'm just still not completely happy with how this turned out. Okay, maybe take a little black and darken in spots. That might help. And then perhaps even put a little colour through just to separate them from the reflections, okay? Just like that. I think that makes a difference. Does it? Yes, it does. So my friends, with that, I will say thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. I could put a burden up there, but I don't know if it needs it. It might spoil it. Let's leave it as it is. I'm going to zoom in for you and show you how this looks close up. Okay? And there we are. Now I'm going to soften some of those. I will soften some of them back in just slightly, alright? But in general, I am very, very happy with this. So thank you so much, my friends. Let me turn the camera so you can see me. You prefer to see painting, I know, but for now it'll have to be me. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. I have another fantastic painting coming on my Patreon channel in the coming days. So please do pop over and take a look and see what you think. Sign up and you'll be supporting me in the process. And I really appreciate that. Give that a shot and let me know what you think. I'd love to see your work. Just email me at stephenconway12@gmail.com and follow me on Facebook, Stephen Conway Art as well. So until then, take care my friends. God bless and happy painting.